if that's the case, then why do they bother to have observatories to, watch the stars and watch what's going on out there? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. There's something there's something to conjure for a while.
Okay, I'm going to put you on hold. We're going to go on about a 3-minute break. We'll be back in 3 minutes, folks.
Please check out the Night Dreams Talk Radio website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. Also, if you want to keep our show free of advertising, just hit the donate button. Give $1 or $2. Remember, all prior shows are always free to listen to. We at Night Dreams Talk Radio thank you for your support.
And if you are a composer of music or you are a singer and you want to get your song played as our bumper music for a month, you can contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. That's nightdreamstalkradio at gmail.com. We're happy to review your music, and if we like it, we'll play it for a month on our show as bumper music off and on, just like this song right here.
Vete, vamos a hacer un contrato donde solo figure buen trato. Es puro sentimiento, con todo lo que digo no miento. Te quiero dejar en lo más alto y no me jacto. Baby, te enseño a bailar lento, muy lento, bebé. Toda la noche y de esto no me arrepiento. Si él quiere algo estaré para el intento. Tú eres mía hasta mañana, lo siento. Ven, vamos a acercarnos pa' ver cómo es esto de rozarnos piel con piel. Hoy quiero que te sientas mi mujer una y otra vez. Tu piel es dulce como la miel y sabes que él no la merece. Hoy tengo que hacerte mi mujer y lo sé muy bien. Ven, vamos a acercarnos pa' ver cómo es esto de rozarnos piel con piel. Hoy quiero que te sientas mi mujer una y otra vez. Tu piel es dulce como la miel.
Do you have a paranormal story you want to share on Night Dreams Talk Radio? You could be a guest. Email us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
You're listening to my friend Gary Anderson on Night Dreams Talk Radio, the best in paranormal radio.
Well, John Cleese, I try, and I want to again thank you for making my intro. Anyway, Charles, are you back?
Yeah, I'm here with you, sure.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it back in time. I had to go get a cup of Java.
Yep, I know what you mean.
So now we're talking like medieval times, correct?
Well, yeah, before we go forward, let me just drop back and punt here before we go into what's known as the medieval Renaissance period. I wanted to say one thing about the interreaction of gods and men back in the Sumerian period. This is a page out of the book I was telling you about, Sitchin. It says here, the granting by Min, who was one of the gods, the granting by Min to the Egyptian astronomer priests of the viewing device was not an extraordinary action. A Sumerian sculpture molded in relief shows a great god granting a handheld astronomical device to a king priest, and it shows a picture of it. Numerous other Sumerian depictions show a king being granted a measuring rod and a rolled measuring cord for the purpose of assuring the correct astronomical orientation of temples, as we have seen in Figure 54. Such depictions only enhance the textual evidence that is explicit about the manner in which the line of astronomer priests began. So that's interaction there. And then we have on another page, we have this statement: Have you ever ordered morning or figured out dawn according to the corners of earth? Job was asked. Do you know where daylight and darkness exchange places, or how snow and hailstones come about, or rains or dew? Do you know the celestial laws, or how they regulate that which is upon the earth? The texts and depictions were intended to make clear that the human keepers of the secrets were pupils, not teachers. The records of Sumer leave no doubt that the teachers, the original keepers of the secrets, were the Anunnaki. So that's that little record there that I wanted to go. And now we can go forward to medieval.
Before we go to the medieval thing, I just got one thing I want to say. With Antarctica melting like it is, and as fast as it's melting, I don't know if I will still be alive if it happens, but I'm just waiting to see if all of a sudden some pyramids or some ruins kind of start popping out.
Yeah, there have been allegedly some stories that there are some buried even UFOs in Antarctica. Nobody really knows because nobody's really bored down very deep, maybe 150, 200 feet, but certainly there, don't forget that Antarctica is solid rock, unlike the North Pole. And not only is it difficult to get to Antarctica and miserably difficult to stay there and very expensive, but then to start digging, drilling, we're talking about a heroic effort to really uncover anything that might be under the ice. So,
but
all kinds of
give it another about 30, 40 years, and I got a funny feeling it's pretty much going to be uncovered by itself.
Well, if it's all rock, you still have to get down to the granite and the rock itself.
Well,
it's going to be a while.
This depends on how fast it went into an ice age and what was there before it was an ice age and got covered up with snow, hundreds and hundreds of feet thick.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
Sure. So on our timeline, the Romans went to hell in a handbasket. The Dark Ages ensued. And then we had a period of time when you had somewhat of a rebirth of civilization, starting with the King Arthur period, 11th century, 12th century. And then you had exploration all during this time, starting with the Dutch, the Vikings, and then, of course, the Spanish got into the act big, and we came forward and found America. But at the same time, in Europe, you had a bit of a renaissance in the 16th, 17th centuries. Even Da Vinci was earlier than that, started his little renaissance. Michelangelo, these painters, sculptors, lyricists. Something happened. Something very important happened, and I'm going to mention this in connection with the future voyages to Mars. We're very interested in Mars now, and there's going to be a lot of attention on Mars and getting to Mars, even by private interests. Apparently, there was a civilization on Mars during this period of time which disappeared or had a war, much like the nuclear destruction of Sumer, and went by the boards, as they say. And that particular civilization was having an influence on our planet, and it all went away. And it wasn't a very good influence. It was one of those bad influences. And so we had now a flowering, a rebirth of interest in more communication and better types of communication and culture around that time, the 15th century on up. Exploration increased tremendously.
Yeah, but
art. And
you also had a lot of evil, too, at the same time as you had culture.
Well, that's always, that's concomitant. That always comes about because of the bad guys. The bad guys thrive off of life. They're like the vampires. You might call them vampires of the past. They can only suck blood from civilization. So, yeah, they're the guys that want to get into Rome and suck Rome dry. So, yeah, it's the same boys over and over again, doing their thing. And you're right. You have the bad guys. You had the Inquisition, you had other things going on. You had the suppression of other religions, Catholic Church and all that. The failure of the Crusades during that period of time to win back Jerusalem. And by the way, Sitchin did believe that the reason they wanted to go back to Jerusalem is because Jerusalem is where the spaceport was, in that area. And there were still artifacts and literature and things and secrets to uncover. That was a big interest by those who financed the Crusades. They said it was a religious cause. And I think it all comes down to commercialism, to tell you the truth. And I'm not being cynical. I think I'm being factual with that. Maybe let our listeners comment on that later on. Hey, by the way, do they have a chance to call in if they want to?
Well, we'll try maybe the last 15 minutes of the show, and we'll see. They're not used to calling in, so usually, it's a hit and miss. Some nights I'll get 4 or 5 calls. Some nights nobody calls. They all just right. They're listening right now, and my chat is going right now on 3 different computers. Okay. I got 3 different chats going on, and people are making little comments here and there, but they're out there listening.
All right. Well, alienexpert1@gmail.com. It's still, that's where you want to send your comments and your curiosities. So I'll be glad to funnel them. And let's go on. Let's continue.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So there was a Renaissance in Europe, and we have pictures, we have paintings that contain pictures of flying objects in them. We mentioned this, I think, one of the last times we were talking. The ancient alien programs that are on cable and on the upper channels constantly refer to these artifacts and say, well, here's evidence that these things were flying around as early as 15th century, Da Vinci's time, and so all the way through this whole period, this 5,000 years, we've been being visited. It's nothing new. This is nothing novel. And I just want our listeners to understand that in case they haven't gotten that particular point. This is just an ongoing scenario. You know what I mean?
I do. Yes, very much so. But
what are your comments on it? What have you seen or heard from Art Bell on this?
Well, what I remember from Art Bell, which, boy, I sure miss the guy, that we've been visited so many times through all different, the Dark Ages, all the way through, the medieval ages, and currently. I mean, all I can say is, I think people drew pictures of UFOs or flying objects because they saw them. And maybe they didn't have to hide as much as they do with our current situation where we're at a level with humans right now. I can, if I was a visitor from out there, I certainly would be hiding myself, coming and visiting Earth.